The robe that I'm wearing in many ways is not a traditional robe. It is the history of my family. My grandfather was picked up from a battlefield in the 1890s and wrapped in this, which was a cavalry blanket. He was carried with that cavalry blanket to an Episcopal church where the smell of evergreens was still there because it was shortly after Christmas. And for most of his life, when Christmas time came, we would call it a panic attack. He would break out in sweat at the smell of a Christmas tree because as a toddler, he was carried with those who had survived into the Episcopal church. She took elk skin and trimmed it in the style that was for his people. She trimmed it in seashell buttons as a representative of her people. And on the back, because he could not wear the killer whale of her people, she began to do beadwork, and my great uncle continued it, of a baby killer whale within a circle. Not the depiction of her people, but of the beginnings of their life together. And then we walked out into the snow and we went down. And there were the grove of trees, and each tree who had been there when my grandmother was kicked, she went to the tree as if a silent witness, and she patted the tree. And we went down over the edge of a hill, and I knew where we were going. And I said, "Grandmother, why are we going here?" She took my hand and we went down to the door, and my grandmother knocked on the door, and a man with a large red beard opened the door. Here was my grandmother, who was about 4'10" at her tallest, looking up at a large man in the doorway. She said simply, "I have some gifts. May I give them?" He didn't move, so my grandmother put her hand on his chest. She faced the spiritual obstacle and put her hand on his chest and gently stepped around him. But the hand on the chest is what one does to a loved one that says, "Listen with your heart. Listen with your heart." And she stepped around him and walked into the room, and there were 3 young men sitting there. And to each one, my grandmother handed a paper packet wrapped in brown paper, and to each one she said, "Merry Christmas, God bless you." There is, in conclusion, a Tlingit poem that goes like this. A long time ago, when the world was new, all creation had its own song, except for the wind and except for the tree, who had no voice of their own. The wind would blow over mountains and stones, but the sound was lonely and cold. And the wind cried at night, but no voice was heard in the legends our grandmothers told. But the tree which stood on the mountain said, "I'll be the voice for the wind, for I know its touch. It planted my seed. I'll sing the wind song for him." So the winter wind blew through the trees' empty limbs, and the voice of the wind was heard. And the summer wind danced with the leaves of the tree, and they fluttered its love to the world. Abba, Father of all, looks inside everyone, crying, "Come, children, who'll sing for me? For you know my touch. What lovelier song than the sound of the voice of the free? Blow, spirit wind, through the leaves of our lives, through dry bones where warriors will stand. Speak, spirit wind, through these vessels of clay, your love song for God and these ones." God bless you.